Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you to start the day. First, a guilty verdict in the au pair affair double murder trial. Unsealed evidence illuminates some sequence in events in the Idaho student murders. Pattern of allegations emerge in the Hollywood career of Timothy Busfield. The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. We've got this day in legal history. Our quote of the day deals with stolen land. Is there such a thing? And our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that little bell for notifications to remind you of when we go live or put up new content. And yes, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. We certainly did here at Crime Talk. But man, it goes by so fast, does it not? Yes, it does. Anyway, quick reminder before we get to the docket. We have a little contest going. If you order any merch from, it was last Monday through midnight tonight, you will be added to the list of people who are in the drawing for $100 in cash. Yeah, that's right. Straight out of Scott's pocket. His little money clip, $100 cash will go to one lucky individual that will be randomly selected. All you have to do is, buy some merch. So whether it's $5 or somebody ordered several $100s worth of stuff over the weekend, good for you. Either way, all you got to do is get yourself, a little $5 keychain and for the chance to win $100. How sweet is that? All right, let me also remind you, go to crimetalksearch.com. If you haven't signed up for that background subscription service, I ask you, what are you waiting for? Everyone knows there's somebody that they want to search about to find out some information about somebody. Maybe somebody coming into their life. Maybe it's the parents of the kids that are coming into your life. Go check them out. Get a background report sent to you, prepared literally while you wait. And you're going to find out everything. You're going to find out social media presence, emails, phone numbers. Do they have a criminal history? Their business associates. You're going to find out if they're on a sex offender registry, ladies and gentlemen. Wouldn't you want to know that? You probably would. If they're going to be hanging around your children, would you not? That's right. Go to crimetalksearch.com. Sign up today. You're going to be happy that you did. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for February 2nd, 2026. And on this Monday, that's right, a guilty verdict in the au pair affair double murder trial. A jury convicted Brendan Banfield today on all charges in the aggravated murders of his wife, Christine Banfield, and Joseph Ryan, concluding a closely watched trial that exposed an alleged elaborate scheme involving infidelity and deception. Is there any other way to have a good murder trial? No. Little three-way lovers triangle, throw in a little deception. Maybe an innocent victim gets lured to the place. It's got the makings of some good true crime, does it not? Well, the Fairfax County jury, after deliberating nearly 9 hours over 2 days, returning guilty verdicts on 2 counts of aggravated murder, along with the additional charge including use of a firearm in the commission of a felony and child endangerment. The offenses stem from the February 2023 killing at the couple's home in Herndon, Virginia, where the Banfield's young daughter was present. Now, prosecutors presented evidence that Banfield, a former IRS law enforcement officer, engaged in an extramarital affair with the family's Brazilian au pair. They alleged he masterminded a plan to eliminate his wife by creating a fictitious online profile to pose as her on a fetish website, luring Ryan to the residence under the pretense of a consensual encounter. The scheme purportedly aimed to frame Ryan for Christine Banfield's stabbing death, after which Banfield allegedly shot Ryan. Well, the au pair, who pled guilty to manslaughter in Ryan's death as part of a cooperation agreement, testified that Banfield carried out the stabbing and shootings with her assistance in the aftermath to stage the scene. Now, Banfield testified in his own defense, and, well, kind of terribly in my humble opinion, denying any premeditated plot and asserting that Ryan had and fatally stabbed Christine, prompting him to intervene by shooting Ryan in self-defense. He described the accusations as implausible. Well, obviously, the jury rejected the defense's account. Banfield showed minimal reaction as the verdicts were announced, and he faces mandatory life in prison without the possibility of parole. Sentencing is set for May 8th so that we can go through that kind of perfunctory sentencing to give the victims a chance to speak as well. Couple of things to be had from this, right? First of all, don't kill people. That's good. Second, if you're going to kill people, don't do it with the young, impressionable au pair who will throw you under the bus as quickly as, well, she gets in trouble and gets a smoking good deal, right? Remember, what do we say, ladies and gentlemen? The threat of imminent incarceration tends to break the bonds of loyalty. Their bond was quite tight. Well, until they were both planning to spend a lot of time together in prison. Remember that. Anyway, how about this? Don't kill people. And, nobody wants a divorce. Divorces are terrible. Okay. You should always try to, fix it if you can. But if you can't, you got to move on. But don't kill anyone. That's not the way to do it. Okay. It's stuff. It's money. You can always make more money. Next, some unsealed evidence illuminates some sequence of events in the Bryan Kohberger matter. That's right. Going back to November of 2022, obviously the University of Idaho students were all fatally stabbed in an off-campus residence in Moscow, Idaho. Bryan Kohberger, the former criminology graduate student at nearby Washington State University, pled guilty back in July of 2025 to 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary, receiving 4 consecutive life sentences without parole as part of the plea agreement that removed the possibility of the death penalty. Now, police have consistently stated that no clear motive has been established, and Kohberger offered no detail as to why he did what he did during the sentencing proceedings as well. Well, back in January of 2026, this month, the Idaho State Police briefly made nearly 3,000 crime scene images available online before removing them. These photographs depicting blood pattern, stained surfaces, and other forensic details were reviewed by former FBI agents Jennifer Coffindaffer and Tracy Walder. Well, their assessment shared in public commentary focus on the progression of the attacks rather than introducing new evidence of the motive or accomplice. All right. Now, according to these 2 experts, interpretation of the images and supporting autopsy findings show that Kohberger entered the home around 4 a.m. on November 13th of 2022 and proceeded directly to the 3rd floor where he attacked Mogen and Gonsalves. The limited signs of struggle in that area, combined with fewer defensive wounds of the victims, Mogen sustained 28 stab wounds, Gonsalves 38, suggests they were assaulted while sleeping or incapacitated. Now, Walder maintains that Mogen was likely the primary target, given the intruder's path straight to her bedroom and the location of the discarded knife sheath containing Kohberger's DNA trace amid blood-soaked bedding there. Now, the attacks then moved to the 2nd floor where Kernodle and Chapin were located, and evidence from those photographs include blood marks on the exterior of Kernodle's bedroom door and wounds on her back, indicating that she may have initially confronted Kohberger in the hallway, possibly after retrieving a late-night food delivery, and retreated into her room. Kernodle suffered 67 stab wounds, many defensive in nature, with blood on the soles of her feet, suggesting movement and resistance during a prolonged struggle. Chapin, asleep in Kernodle's bed at the outset, sustained 17 wounds, including a fatal slash to the jugular vein. Coffindaffer and Walder described this as a swift neutralization of a perceived threat rather than an act of prolonged intent. Coffindaffer characterized Chapin's killing as necessary to eliminate resistance amid escalating chaos, stating that the perpetrator killed the guy because he needed to neutralize the threat, while the assault on the female victims appeared more extensive. Walder suggested that Kernodle encountered the intruder unexpected during the exit, leading to an unplanned confrontation that drew Chapin into the violence as collateral. Now, these images also reveal significant disarray in Kernodle's bedroom, with indications of movement, resistance, and intense violence contrasting with the relatively contained blood pooling upstairs. Both analysts emphasized that the tight timeline, entry around 4 a.m. and exit by approximately 4:20, rules out lingering, torture-oriented approach, describing Kohberger as act-focused and driven by impulse or experimentation rather than methodical process. Importantly, the photographs and expert commentary affirm no indication of additional perpetrators, alternative suspects, or elaborate stagings. They reinforce the established prosecution narrative of a single assailant whose plan unraveled into greater brutality upon encountering resistance. Now, the release of these materials has underscored the horrific scale of the crime, with Coffin Daffer describing it as a slaughter rather than a conventional murder, highlighting the close proximity and the barbarity involved. While questions among motive persist, the unsealed evidence provides forensic clarity on the events of that night, offering partial insight into how the violence unfolded while Chapin, the only male victim, became entangled in what experts view as an unforeseen escalation. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, I know that the photos have been taken down, but the people need to see the brutality of what Bryan Kohberger did, okay? And I understand some people, oh no, this couldn't have happened. Bryan Kohberger pled guilty because he knew his goose was cooked, all right? That's a term of art in the legal profession. Your goose is cooked. And it didn't look good. And he knew he was going to get the death penalty, and he knew he was going to lose, and he knew as soon as the jury saw the crime scene photos, it was done. It was done. The world needs to see what evil looks like. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You need to see what evil looks like so you don't live in this ostrich, bury your head in the sand and only think that good things happen in the world. Evil exists, ladies and gentlemen. Next on the docket, well, we got a pattern of allegations emerging in the Hollywood career of Timothy Busfield. So obviously, Timothy Busfield, known for his roles in 30-something and The West Wing, was arrested in January in Albuquerque, New Mexico on charges including 2 counts of criminal sexual conduct of a minor and 1 count of child abuse. Prosecutors allege that the incident involved inappropriate touching of twin boys, then aged 7 and 8, on the set of the Fox series The Cleaning Lady, where Busfield served as a director, actor, and producer. Now, Busfield has denied the accusations, and he's entitled to the presumption of innocence. He characterizes the charges as completely unfounded. Now, following a detention hearing, a judge ordered him released on his own recognizance on January 20th, citing his lack of prior criminal convictions and a current state of evidence. Now, the case has prompted some scrutiny of the earlier claims against Busfield. Now, back in 1994, during a civil lawsuit, make sure you understand civil, stemming from allegations by a 17-year-old extra on this set of Little Big Lead, Eliza Roberts, voluntarily gave a deposition. Now, Roberts, married to Eric Roberts, the brother of Julia Roberts, recounted an unsettling 1989 encounter in Santa Monica, California, where Busfield, whom she knew only casually, approached her in a bookstore and escalated the conversations to explicit sexual propositions. She testified that he made graphic comments about desiring oral sex, boasted about his sexual prowess, and criticized his then wife while following her to her car and persisting despite her discomfort. Roberts likened his behavior to that of an individual with compulsion tendencies who target women without discrimination. Now, Roberts stated that reading about the Little Big League accuser's claim prompted her to come forward, as she believes the young woman and others were being unfairly dismissed. She expressed regret for not acting more decisively at the time, citing concerns about publicity and the impact on family, but emphasized the importance of corroborating truthful accounts. Now, the 1994 case was settled out of court in 1995 without any criminal charges moving forward. Now, additional historic allegations have surfaced in connection with the current proceedings, including a reported 2001 claim involving a 16-year-old in Sacramento related to a theater Busfield co-founded, and a 2012 incident at a cinema. Now, Busfield has previously denied such claims, and his legal team has described prior accusations as unproven and unrelated to the present matter. And legally, they're probably correct. it's inadmissible. It won't come in at trial. It'd be tough to do it as 404B evidence. But the reality is, what is life really? Life is about pattern recognition, ladies and gentlemen. And sometimes, you got to look and you find the pattern. There's usually a sign. In recent statements, Eliza Roberts affirmed the accuracy of her 1994 testimony, and Busfield's representatives have maintained that the allegations lack substantiation and that his current charges stem from questionable motives. The case obviously remains ongoing with further court proceedings anticipated. Now, like I said, the developments underscore recurring concerns about accountability and pattern conduct in the entertainment industry, and where past reports can resurface amid new scrutiny. Busfield, now 68, is married to actress Melissa Gilbert. They've been married since 2013, and Melissa Gilbert, is standing behind Busfield, asserting his innocence. Next on the docket, some breaking news: the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of NBC's Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie. The police are reporting that she was abducted from her home while she slept. Now, the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, obviously the mother of NBC's Today Show co-anchor Savannah Guthrie, from her residence in Tucson, Arizona, is under investigation by police who have classified her home as a crime scene and expressed significant concern for her safety. Now, like I said, they've now come out just within minutes of us going on the air to produce the show today that they believe that she was basically kidnapped from her home while she slept. So what we do know thus far is that Nancy Guthrie was last seen at her home in the Catalina Foothills area near Skyline Drive and Campbell Avenue around 9:30 p.m. to 9:45 p.m. on Saturday, January 31st. She lives alone and was reported missing by family members around noon on Sunday, February 1st, after she failed to attend church services that morning. Now, a family member or church contact alerted relatives, who then checked her residence before notifying law enforcement. Now, the Pima County Sheriff's Chris Nanos addressed the media during the press conference on Monday, February 2, stating that evidence at the scene indicates that Nancy Guthrie did not depart voluntarily. He emphasized her limited mobility, noting that she could not have walked far independently, and described her as being of sound mind with no cognitive impairments, such as dementia. Police have confirmed that she requires daily medications essential for her survival, and failure to take it could prove fatal within a short time frame. Now, the sheriff explicitly stated that the residence is being treated as a crime scene, with homicide detectives involved at the inquiry. Now, investigators have reviewed security camera footage from the home, examined her cell phone, and are analyzing additional surveillance sources, including license plate readers. Now, while the initial response included search and rescue efforts utilizing drones, aircraft, and dogs, along with volunteers, these operations have shifted from a focus to a criminal investigation. The FBI is assisting, and the U.S. Customs and Border Protection has been engaged due to the proximity to the Mexican border, though no specific threats or connection to Savannah Guthrie's public profile have been identified. Now, Savannah Guthrie, who was absent from the Today broadcast on Monday following recent vocal cord surgery, issued a public statement expressing gratitude for the community support and prayers, and she affirmed that the family's priority is her mother's safe return, and urged anyone with information to contact the Pima County Sheriff's Office. Now, Nancy Guthrie, widowed since the death of her husband Charles back in 1989, has two other children besides Savannah, a daughter, Annie, and a son, Cameron. The family maintains close ties, with Savannah having recently hosted her mother at the Today studios in New York City. Like I said, now police continue to appeal for the public's assistance, stressing the critical nature of the situation and the need for any relevant tips to aid the investigation. This is going to be an interesting one, ladies and gentlemen. Is this just some random act of kidnapping, or was there something more nefarious going on? Was it planned? Is there going to ransom? Who knows? It's going to be interesting. Let's hope for her safe return. Next, this day in legal history, February 2nd, 1790, the United States Supreme Court held its inaugural session. That's right, convened at the Old Exchange Building, also known as the Royal Exchange in New York City. This marked the first official meeting of the Supreme Court and established under the Judiciary Act of 1789. Although no cases were heard that day due to a lack of quorum, only 3 of the 6 appointed justices actually showed up. The event formalized the beginning of the federal judiciary's operation under the new Constitution. The milestone laid the foundation for the court's role in interpreting federal law and the Constitution. On this date, February 2nd, 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed. The international agreement formally ended the Mexican-American War, negotiated and signed on February 2, 1848 in the town of Guadalupe Hidalgo, near present-day Mexico City. The treaty required Mexico to cede approximately 55% of its territory to the United States, including present-day California, Nevada, Utah, most of Arizona, and New Mexico as parts of Colorado and Wyoming, in exchange for $15 million and the assumption of certain claims. Now, this was ratified by the United States Senate shortly thereafter, and it represented a major expansion of U.S. territory through legal diplomacy and significantly shaped the nation's western boundaries and subsequent legal framework for territorial governance and citizenship. Next, our quote of the day. How about a legal provision from the American history concerning the purchase of territory that goes back to the Louisiana Purchase, 1803. Now, the most significant territorial acquisition by purchase in the United States history. This treaty, signed between the United States and France, ceded a vast territory of $15 million and doubled the nation's size. Now, a key excerpt from Article 1 of that treaty states, quote, "The first consul of the French Republic, desiring to give the United States a strong proof of his friendship, does hereby cede to the United States, in the name of the French Republic, forever and in full sovereignty, the said territory with all rights and appurtenance as fully and in the same manner as they have been acquired by the French Republic in virtue of the above-mentioned treaty concluded with His Catholic Majesty." This language formally transferred full sovereignty over Louisiana Territory from France to the United States. How about this one? Another notable example was the Alaska Purchase, the Treaty of Secession of 1867, under which Russia ceded Alaska to the United States for $7.2 million. Article 1 there says, "His Majesty, the Emperor of all of Russia, agrees to cede to the United States, by the convention immediately upon the exchange, the ratifications thereof, all the territory and dominion now possessed by his said Majesty on the continent of America and in the adjacent islands." How about the Gadsden Purchase? Treaty of 1853, finalized in 1854, with Mexico, providing a further instance with Article 3 specifying, "In consideration of the foregoing stipulations, the government of the United States agrees to pay to the government of Mexico in the city of New York the sum of $10 million. These treaty provisions constitute formal legal mechanisms by which the United States acquired territory through negotiated purchases rather than conquest or unilateral claim. The Louisiana Purchase remains the most expansive and constitutionally debated example, as it raised questions about executive authority under the Treaty Clause, Article 2, Section 2, for all us law dorks, of the United States Constitution, later affirmed in judicial interpretation, such as Chief Justice John Marshall's statements in American Insurance Company versus Cantor, an 1828 case, saying, quote, "The Constitution confers absolutely on the government of the Union the powers of making war and making treaties. Consequently, that government possesses the power of acquiring territory, either by conquest or by treaty." Now, that was a long way to get there, ladies and gentlemen, but the reality of it is I heard somebody the other night on a show, apparently famous, apparently not very well educated, stating that they were on stolen land. I hate to prove them wrong, but I think we just did. California was not stolen land. It was purchased from the government of Mexico, just like Alaska was purchased from, well, the Tsar of Russia. Louisiana, purchase from the French, wasn't stolen. Let's face it, up until that time, people would go through conquest, and to the victor go the spoils, and that's how things were done back then. Maybe not so much today, but although who knows, maybe it will be. Who knows? The reality of it is, it wasn't stolen, ladies and gentlemen. It was purchased. Next, our dumb criminal of the day. An Atlantic City man masters the art of the half-baked alibi. That's right. In a masterclass of myth-guided ingenuity, a 59-year-old Atlantic City resident has demonstrated why authenticity matters, particularly when operating a vehicle that does not belong to you. Now, according to the Atlantic County prosecutor, Terry Fletcher was pulled over by Abscon police near Route 30 in 2023 while driving a Toyota Echo. Officers quickly observed that the registration affixed to the vehicle was counterfeit. When questioned, Fletcher maintained that he had purchased the car in the current condition, complete with apparently the dubious paperwork. To bolster his claim, he presented authorities with a folded piece of paper. Upon unfolding, officers discovered the words "Bill of Sale" handwritten across it, nothing more. No names, date, amounts, vehicle identification numbers, or signatures. The document's brevity proved as unconvincing as it was creative. Further inspection revealed the Toyota had been hot-wired and traced to an auto theft in Ohio, confirming it was in fact stolen property. Now, this little automotive misadventure was not Fletcher's only lapse in judgment. Several months earlier, he was captured on surveillance footage hurling a large rock through the glass window of a Hellsberg diamond store in Mays Landing, an act of criminal mischief that required considerable, less paperwork, but equally poor planning. Fletcher has since entered guilty pleas on charges of receiving a stolen motor vehicle and criminal mischief. His sentencing is set for later in the month. Anyway, cautionary tale, ladies and gentlemen, when engaging in questionable activities, thorough documentation, and perhaps a modicum of a little bit of realism can make all the difference. Anyway, sir, you are a dumb criminal of the day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.